First, I want to welcome everyone to our webinar today, and we are delighted to have HEADRUSH Learning platform today. And I think you will find that this is an amazing piece of software that is going to open up some doors on how we might manage project-based learning, personalized learning, and the remote learning that it appears that we're all going to be in as this COVID situation continues. So today I want to welcome one of our co-hosts, Carmen Zeisler. You will be amazed at this amazing teacher and consultant, and we're delighted to have her on staff at ESDAC. And also Mike and Shane, the brains behind HEADRUSH Learning. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a minute. And it's a little bit of housekeeping. If you would, when you have questions, please put them in the chat feature located at the bottom of your screen, and we will get to those as they come in. And maybe some of them will have to be at the end when we get to Q&A. That might be take a little deeper explanation. So with all of that, in the next 45 minutes or so, our schedule will be this. First, we'll have the guys from HEADRUSH share their product, a product that we've been excited about and been using for over a year, and found and have had some amazing results with, and I think you will see that soon. And so we'll go with the demo first, and then Carmen will share some things that she's been using HEADRUSH with and for over this past year, and then we'll have a Q&A time. So with that, guys, I'm going to kick it over to you. Mike, Shane, you want to introduce yourselves and take off?
Sounds great. Thanks very much, Mike. We're super excited to be here. We're super excited to be working in Kansas. And despite the somewhat negative motivation for some of these conversations that's happening right now, we're really excited about the opportunities that are arising through some of these challenges. My name is Mike Hauerheim. I'm the CEO, one of the co-founders of HEADRUSH. I'm based up here in Toronto. Been working in and around schools and project-based learning and education technology for the last 20 years. And we're really happy and excited to kind of share what we've been working on over the last 3 years in building HEADRUSH. I'm joined by my co-founder Shane. I'll let Shane introduce himself, and then we can dive into what we want to share.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be sharing this with you guys. I started my career working with disadvantaged and disenfranchised youth in Milwaukee, and that kind of began my passion for project-based learning, agile learning, as we call it. And since then, had worked with a lot of innovative schools. I'm located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we continue to do so today with HEADRUSH. Excited to be here.
All right, let me share my screen and we can get rolling. So HEADRUSH, quick kind of summary, is a learning management system for an agile age. So all these things we're talking about, project-based learning and play-based learning and differentiation, personalized learning, we kind of group it all into an umbrella of agile learning. How can we be most flexible and adaptable at any given time? I guess the big summary is we're not about this picture. A lot of tools are and continue to focus on this picture where, it's very subject specific. Students are doing the same things at the same time. Teachers in control. It's very time-based. We really want to do everything we can to help schools and districts move towards this picture where students are collaborating, solving real problems, and are highly engaged in their learning. We also really want to bring around a time where we can really increase students in having agency and leading their own learning. The kind of broad themes that we delve into kind of on a daily basis is this kind of agile approach. So all these different kinds of ways of flipping learning and having it driven and organized in a very different way. big emphasis on process and how do we capture the process and enable reflection and feedback, and that being a more valuable asset than a final grade. Competency-based assessment, something we'll talk about quite a bit today, and something that connects really well to project-based learning and some of these other strategies that are being encouraged right now. And then the most important for us is increasing student agency, and because we know that increasing student agency increases engagement, and increased engagement increases learning, and that's kind of what we're all about. So that we've built a end-to-end platform that helps you plan really good learning of all kinds, manage them over time, whether they're driven by students, teachers, groups of students, or combinations in between. And then be able to assess those in a common way and provide ongoing dashboards for so students can always see where they stand in the grand scheme of things. We learned about and connected with SDAC July of last year, I think it was, and we've accomplished a lot together. We're really excited about our partnership. It started with an interest in what's this tool that might help us manage projects better, and since then it's grown into how can we really help Kansas and help power some of these ideas and make them happen. We all have a good time together as well. So easy people to work with, and that's kind of what we're always seeking, that people that are easy to work with, passionate, but also like to have some fun. So I want to spend a couple minutes just we did I know it's a 1,000-page document, but we did as much kind of review of it to understand what kind of role we can play in enabling some of these ideas. So I want to give you kind of our take on this document and just pull out some of the kind of key parts that are relevant to what we do and connect it with how we can kind of support it in your schools and districts. So the first kind of theme is this move from standards to competencies. Competencies are kind of an evolution of standards, but really comes down to this idea of students progressing by demonstrating mastery and not based on kind of seat time and calendars. And also working on kind of self-paced. So if we can decouple what they're needing to learn and what they needed to show from how they learn it, then the how part can be highly varied and adjusted from student to student, but we're still confident that students are working towards the goals that we want them to do as a state or as a district or whatever your community is looking to do. And then alongside of that, it talks a lot about demonstration of proficiency as opposed to grades and time spent on a given topic. And the other kind of neat little thing that I pulled out is this idea of, well, if you're doing things in a very competency-based way, often your school might be ready for that or your district might be ready for that. That doesn't necessarily mean parents are ready for it or other kind of stakeholders are ready. And so how could we possibly do things in a competency-based way, but still maybe ease the fears that some would have in that way? And we actually have a system for translating competencies back into traditional grades that I want to touch on. And I thought it was cool that it was actually, that idea was actually highlighted in the document as well. All these learning strategies are amazing. They all come with challenges in implementing it, and we'll talk a little bit about how we can help support that. Our roots are in project-based learning, but we work with lots of schools that connect that with outdoor, expedition-based learning, flipped learning. Co-teaching is a big part of all this. Small group learning. So these are all kinds of things that sort of play well in what our platform is designed to enable. And then instructional examples, there's a number of examples outlined in this document, which are all kind of illustrate how we can bring multiple disciplines together and approach them in an inquiry-based way or project-based way. And in addition to that, I'll show some significant work that SDAC's done over the last year or so in accumulating and curating some pretty amazing projects that serve as a good starting point for any teachers or students wanting to delve into this, but they don't know how to start. So all of these kind of different things are kind of a really interesting opportunity. And from our perspective, we work with lots of schools that are working on shifting to all these things. and they all cite different kinds of frictions that they feel when they're trying to do it, and frictions that we see as well and try to support them in overcoming. But those frictions are lack of state support, which this document and these efforts really help overcome. Most of the time in the jurisdictions we're working in, at best these project-based or in learner-centric schools get permission, and that's about it. if they get that right, and they're left with trying to find loopholes and ways around certain kind of state policies that don't support what they're trying to do very well. And from what we see in this document, it's really starting to unleash things and open up a good pathway for schools to adopt these things. So that's killer. That idea for alignment at a state level is very exciting to us. The next kind of big barrier is just drafting a set of competencies. That's not an easy task, and this essentially is done for you. And we've actually taken them and loaded them into our platform. So we have all the high school competencies already loaded in. We have something that you can kind of drop in and play around with, and Carmen's going to show that. So having that is kind of a big thing, and then having examples to get started. In addition to kind of some support and some competencies, having examples for how to do it to get started is another thing. Not all teachers are designers, not all students are designers of their own learning. So how can we scaffold that and get everybody there so they can start well, and then maybe become designers in the future, having modeled it several times. So being able to leverage smart people like Carmen in designing these great learning experiences and sharing those and giving other teachers easy ways to implement those is kind of a key part to adopting these strategies. So these are all great ideas, but some key questions kind of come up, and we want to help answer some of those questions. So the first one is, how do you design, manage, assess a wide variety of learning strategies while increasing student agencies and doing it at scale? That's kind of a pretty big ask. How do you shift towards competency-based education? How do you plan it, assess it, and effectively report on it in today's world? And then it's all kind of a work in progress. How do we pull out what's really good and allow others to run with it and share it? And how do we kind of build that library or warehouse, as we call it, of really good instructional examples? And that's kind of what we're all about. So I'm going to kind of highlight some different screens. The idea of this webinar is to give you a taste of what we can do a little bit of a deep dive in what Carmen's going to show you. But obviously, this is the start of a conversation. So if what we're saying is of interest, we definitely want to kind of hear and hear our specific goals and talk about how we can support them better. So we have tools for collaborative planning. Again, planning can happen with a single teacher, with groups of teachers. It can happen in a multidisciplinary way. It can happen with single students planning their own learning supported by a mentor. It can happen with groups of students working to complete a project supported by multiple mentors. And so we can really provide some kind of rails for helping guide all those different kinds of scenarios. We have a variable in our task board system. We have a very flexible way of organizing and delivering learning of all kinds. So whether it's project-based learning or inquiry-based learning, the way these task boards can be laid out and adjusted for lots of different kinds of scenarios will really help give you kind of a more universal tool for supporting all these different kinds of learning strategies. They could be laid out in all kinds of different ways. So whether it's design thinking or scientific method or engineering design or all these different, or PBL works, these different methodologies, they can all be supported equally using these task boards. In terms of supporting blended learning and online learning, we can embed rich media, interactive examples, and all these things can be contained inside of a HEADRUSH module. Each task is also a place to capture evidence. So now this gives you a central point for students to be able to submit assignments, capture work that they've done that's student-paced, and give teachers really effective tools for viewing that evidence, providing feedback, and sort of seeing where that evidence is leading over time. So that all assessments are informed based on evidence in front of their eyes instead of the kind of perception accumulated over time. We have a comprehensive system for competency-based assessment. So these, we call them in general learning targets, but basically learning targets are attached to any given learning module and then assessed at the end according to whatever scale that is relevant to your communities. And we'll have we can show an example after this about showing the Kansas's competencies, new competencies using the depth of knowledge levels and assessing those over time. And then those assessments feed into a real-time dashboard for every student. So you can see across all these multidisciplinary projects that are happening and all these varied learning experiences, you still have a common place to see which competencies have been completed, what levels they're at, and where they need to improve, fill holes, or work to complete the goals of graduating. And we also have a highly flexible reporting system. So often we have varied needs from all the schools that we work with, and we can go straight from planning these learning experiences, capturing evidence, assessing them, and we could build that straight into a final transcript that would be used in high school, for example. These are two examples that are actually in use. And this is that translation example that I mentioned earlier. So all of these there's sets of targets in all these different subject areas. Those are completed, assessed in a competency-based way, mastery is demonstrated, but at the end of the day, they can produce a transcript, and these credits are calculated based on the completion of targets. And they can be fractions of credits as well. So you can maybe have a project that covers off a little bit of, in this case, visual arts. It ends up being a 0.1 credit. All those other credits are accumulated elsewhere to earn the single credit. And then the grades can be calculated based on the translation table from your competency-based assessment and back into something more traditional. The good thing about this is that teachers and students can focus purely on competencies and assessing competency levels. And at the end, grades can be awarded to satisfy external stakeholders, but they don't necessarily have to impact day-to-day teaching and learning, which we all know as soon as you slap a grade on anything, that becomes the sole focus of everybody involved, unfortunately. And then the last kind of piece is we have a warehouse, a warehouse that in Kansas, working through SDAC, will be populated with over 500 pre-existing projects that are aligned to standards and competencies. And then once you have that kind of pre-populated warehouse, the district and schools are free to build projects themselves, make them available in the warehouse, and as soon as they do, they're instantly available to all of their students and teachers in the district. And so that becomes a really powerful way of building and sharing best practices in all these different kinds of learning strategies. In terms of online, having an effective digital strategy is kind of your key to be able to be flexible, to be able to switch back from face-to-face to online or to hybrid scenarios. I think implementing a platform like ours and doing it in a well-coordinated way just inherently makes you adaptable and flexible and ready to switch to these scenarios. And when school closures started happening in March and April and May, we started to hear from our schools, and just this sort of sample of some of the comments just to sort of show you what they were up and running. They were doing a learner-driven strategy. They were engaging in projects, and they really found a fairly seamless transition to online, and hopefully back again in the fall. Hopefully not back again to online, but we'll see. We'll see things. Best to be prepared for the the possibilities, right? And so. We know that engaging in all these different kinds of strategies helps keep students engaged, whether they're face-to-face or online. Last little tidbit I just want to throw out here, and this is a last-minute addition to my presentation because I noticed it at the end in the document. There's this talking about this remote daily learning log. This is something that we do for lots of our schools that still need to use time as part of their overall equation for student engagement. And so we actually have a time reporting system built in. So when students submit evidence and complete an assignment or task, they can actually associate the time that they spent doing it, and we could provide reporting that totals this up. And we actually do this for schools. We work with one large school of 450 students it's a hybrid homeschool, and they have to report, in order to be validated by the state, they have to report their daily hours, and they've been doing this for the past year. 450 students reporting daily what they spent their time on, and we have a comprehensive report for them that shows for every student, the exact hours spent. So I don't think this is the most exciting part of the document, but I think it's maybe really stressful for a lot of teachers who are like, how am I going to coordinate every minute of things? And one of the answers is to put that burden on the students. So you're validating what they're doing and coordinating it, and all you're doing is supervising that work, and not necessarily having to kind of manually collate all this stuff or manually validate it. So if that is a concern for your school or district, then I'd love to talk to you further about how we can potentially make that process easier. All right, so thanks for indulging that. That was kind of our take on what the kind of opportunities are here, and how we can help support it. And we definitely want to show you the platform live. So what I wanted to show you first is we sort of put together, based on some of SDEC's projects and the competencies, we put together a demo site. Obviously, it's a work in progress because this is all very evolving. But you can see this is 500 projects. Some come from the Boy Scouts of America. A lot come from work that's been done in Kansas already. And these are all pre-built projects that can be used and run, right day one within HEADRUSH. So I'm going to, before I do pass things over to Carmen, just to show you kind of quickly, every student has a dashboard, and so those targets that are outlined, or the competencies are outlined in the document, have all been kind of loaded in already. And so it gives you kind of a good way to play around and experiment and see how those targets can map to our system, and how that assessment model can map to our platform. And Carmen's going to show you a little bit about how that assessment works. Okay, so let me pass over to Carmen, and then we'll have lots of time for Q&A when we're done.
All right, well, thank you so much, Mike. We just want to pause for just a moment, and if there's any questions or anything that anybody has right now, or comments, we'd love for you to put those in the chat, and we'd love to answer them before we keep going and giving you all this information today. All right. All right, I think we'll just go ahead and keep going then, Dr. Cook. Is that okay?
That'd be great. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll get to them.
Yep.
So Carmen,
all right.
Ahead.
Okay. Well, we have how we discovered HEADRUSH was trying to figure out a way that we could work with projects and fractional credits for our learning center students. SDEC runs several learning centers across the state, and so HEADRUSH kind of answered a lot of that for us. And so over this last year, we've had the privilege of just working with projects with students. And so I want to share with you a project that we have aligned to the competencies, but it's one that we did use this last year with some high school students. And so we took the work of Brian Stevenson, who is working, you may have heard about Brian, or maybe you've read his book, Just Mercy, or watched the movie. And so the driving question is our system of criminal justice just? And so the philosophy behind this project is really an inquiry type of project where we're asking questions, digging in deep, and also circling together, be it face-to-face or virtually, to have some deep conversations. And so what happens is that teachers and students can collaborate over kind of the vision of the project, what it looks like, and how it's going to be assessed, and different aspects of it. And then my favorite part that really sold me on HEADRUSH last July, and now even more so with the competencies, is that I can just go in and I can click on the English Language Arts competencies, and all as I have to do is click add to the ones that I want to assess for this particular project. The other part that I love is that it is interdisciplinary. It is very easy to collaborate with other teachers. In this particular project, it is English Language Arts, it's history, government, and social studies as well. I did not click on the social emotional character development, but there's definitely aspects of that in there as well, and along with the humanities pieces. And so we have all the different competencies that we're working towards on this project, and it is a lot. It is a lot of them. And then what we do is we just kind of have, you know, who are the creators of the project, who is the teacher, the advisor, and here's where you can have multiple. So in this case, it would be me as an English Language Arts teacher, and then I also would invite my colleague Glenn Weeby to join me on this project as a social studies teacher, and then who the learners are. Now, the great thing is that the creators could be teachers and students together, collaborating together on a project, which is magical. And I had the privilege of doing that with several students this last year. And then we have our task board. And as Mike said, there's lots of different ways to organize your task board. How I organized this particular project was in terms of some getting started type activities, where there's an intro, kind of setting the stage, and so I recorded a short video. There's an opening video learning about Brian. It's the documentary that was done on him. And then also just some questions, kind of an activity that can be done either face-to-face or virtually. And then Brian Stevenson's TED Talk. And so we have embedded those videos inside, so everything is right there for students. And it gives the description of what to do. So watch the TED Talk, write a paragraph reflection, and be ready to share your paragraph in the class circle. So, so we have that. Here we have the list of kind of just how the book discussion is going to work, because we're going to read the book Just Mercy. And then it jumps over to the actual inquiry activities. And so we have the inquiry question and activities, we have the summative task, and then the actual action task. And what I love about this way of doing things is that it's laid out very clear. I can also hide things from students, and so maybe they're only going to see certain things until they're ready for the next part of it. In terms of, I'm sorry. The other piece that I love is the calendar. And so I can go in and students can go in and we can plan out when things are due, and just helping students learn how to do that, because lots of our kiddos don't know how to do that. And then the evidence stream. This is probably one of my favorite pieces. This shows me the students that are enrolled in this module, and then what they have turned in and what they haven't. And so in this case, this is a new module. Nobody has turned in anything yet. But if somebody had turned in something, it would just be highlighted there, letting me know that they have turned things in. So this is a really easy place to have a quick conference with students, and just saying, where are you at? How can I help? What can we do? Now, if students had turned things in and we were ready to assess, and then we would go over to the assessment piece. And this is where we would assess the learning targets. Now, this piece right here, in terms of how you're going to assess, that really, in terms of the categories, you can decide how you want that labeled. And all as we're doing is we're looking at the competency and then deciding where students are at on it. And you can assess individually or you can assess as a group. And then you can also add reflections. The other piece that I love is that throughout the task board, as students are turning in assignments and such, there's always space for them to ask clarifying questions, for teachers and students to go back and forth on things. There's just lots of opportunities for students to be able to communicate, and for teachers to be able to communicate with students throughout the process. I don't view HEADRUSH as just something that we're only on the computer. That's not what project-based learning is. That's not what inquiry learning is. It's about exploring and communicating and talking and writing and reflecting. And I think this project in particular really showcases all of those different things that we would love to see our students be able to do. If I go over to the student dashboard, it's going to have my students that I have access to. Over here, Mike showed this a little bit. It will show, so this student is enrolled in some different modules, and this shows what learning targets they're working on in terms of the competencies. So you see that the yellow is that they're in progress right now. That means that they are enrolled in a project that has those competencies associated with it. And if they if there's nothing there, if it's all in gray, that means they haven't started working on those competencies yet. Once projects are assessed, then this changes depending on how you are using the competency rubric. So either it's a recall, reproduction, or it's an application, or it's extended thinking, depending on how you name the rubric inside the competencies. So the students love this page as well, because it really it shows them what they've done, what they need to work on, and what they've been learning. It really just showcases their learning throughout the year. And it's a page that is referred to quite often. I'm gonna jump over here really quick. This is another project. This one is not aligned to the competencies yet, but it will be. This is kind of like a Genius Hour project in an elementary area. And when we talk about Genius Hour passion projects, we are also talking about student choice and voice. And so the whole purpose of Genius Hour projects is for students to be able to research, to explore, and to create in something that they are passionate about. And this overlay of a Genius Hour project just kind of helps students and teachers to stay on track. I taught fourth grade for a number of years, and probably the hardest part was when we did Genius Hour is that I had 25 very different projects taking place. And it was hard to always keep up with where my students were at and what they were doing and what help they might need. And so by using a platform such as HEADRUSH, I'm able to see really quickly where students are, what stage they're inside the Genius Hour, and what support and help that they might need. All right, Mike, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Is there anything else that you wanted me to share?
No, or maybe you could share a little bit from the warehouse and copying a module, and if you have to switch back to the SDEX, that you can.
Yep. All right. Okay, so inside the module or inside the warehouse, we do have 522 projects. These projects will be aligned to the competencies. But the great thing is that if you find a project that you like, all as the teacher or the student is going to have to do is just copy it. And so they copy it, and then it becomes part of their dashboard where they can make adjustments and changes. So you might have a project that you really like, but you think that some different standards or competencies should be attached to it. Awesome, fantastic. All you do is copy it, and then you can make those adjustments for that student or for your class. And so we do have a partnership with the Boy Scouts of America, and so we do have all of their badges are in here. And it will showcase, it just kind of walks through the different requirements and stuff inside of a Boy Scout to earn a Boy Scout badge. And then our good friend Mike Cargill, who is a teacher in Stafford, Kansas, he has been working his heart out on creating projects, in particular, well, in all areas of science, but in particular in the health science areas. You can see there's 135 projects that he has done. So those projects are ready to go. They're ready to go. And one of the things that I love is that when Mike was using a HEADRUSH with his students already, and then when things moved on to the continuous learning plans, it was a real ease of operation for him. I remember somebody asked him, how is it going? And he's like, it's great. We're doing exactly what we were doing when we were inside the classroom. We're just now online. And so, yeah, there's just so many different options and experiences. Let's see if I can find one of my favorite projects that is in here. Oh, and also like one of our Learning Center directors, he has been using these projects as well. And students, he doesn't, he says all the time, he goes, I'm not the expert on all of these things. And that's where he just brings in people to help with the assessing piece, which if we think about redesign and we think about the idea of community partnerships and ways to reach out and ways to find mentors for students, this is a really beautiful opportunity to do that. So, all right, Mike.
Great, thanks very much, Carmen. Yeah, so I guess at this point we'd love to hear any questions that you might have, and happy to dive in deeper on anything we've talked about so far.
So I'm going to unmute everybody. And if you have a particular question, just speak up and ask away. These guys are here to help us. And we want to make sure we get all of your questions answered. So fire away. Just unmute your mic and you can go for it.
I had a question on if this would sync with Google Calendar, so the kids, would just have one calendar to look at.
So currently, the calendars are just contained within HEADRUSH. Like I mentioned in the chat, we're fully integrated with Google in other ways in terms of Drive and login. So the plan is definitely to sync up Google Calendar. Our plan is to actually go both ways. So you can have your school calendar kind of feed into HEADRUSH. So when you're planning learning there, then you're doing it in the context of other events that might be going on in the school. And then potentially the other way as well, where you can kind of sync your HEADRUSH calendar back to your Google Calendar if that's what if that's kind of what your central calendar is.
So Amy has a question that she put in the chat for all of us. Has this been used at the primary elementary level? Are younger kids able to navigate and understand the process?
Can I take that one?
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right, so we do have a school here in Kansas that is using it for their summer school program for all age levels. And for the primary, for like K1, 2, they are really using it more as a teacher planning, as well as able for other teachers to be able to communicate with each other about particular kiddos and what they're working on. 3, 4, 5. We do have people that are using it. I think it's ideal for 3rd grade and up.
Thank you, Carmen. Other questions? Well, let me encourage you to email questions to me or Carmen at ESDAC, and we will figure out who we need to get to find the answers. And we also want to encourage you to stay in touch with HEADRUSH Learning Platform, because these guys are doing some amazing work. And then finally, based on your registration information, we will send you a follow-up email each Thursday, not tomorrow, but each Thursday we meet with HEADRUSH, and we're going to start a semi-professional learning group around HEADRUSH, and we'll send you an invite to join that if you so wish. And we just feel free to share this information and this this HEADRUSH learning with any of your colleagues. Oh, we have another question. Great. Amy asked, what sort of teacher training comes along with the program if we were to adopt it? Carmen, I'm going to let you take that one.
So we really feel that we want to walk alongside you and your teachers as you are implementing this learning platform. We feel that there's a combination of training on project-based type learning or play-based learning, along with understanding the platform, and then also just integrating both of those. And so we kind of see it as a bit of a coaching model as well, where teachers have opportunities to call in for support, and we can kind of really just walk right alongside. So it's training in terms of setting up the system. It's training in terms of the overview of creating projects, and then it's also training in terms of training and support in terms of how to use inside the classroom.
We also have, we're building out constantly a knowledge base that all teachers have access to, and there's an online chat support that all teachers get access to. So for quick questions, they can get their questions answered like right in the app. There's a bunch of tutorials for how to do different things, and it's something that we're kind of continually building out in addition to the support SDAC would provide.
Great. Well, if there's no further questions, and I do want to encourage everyone to follow up with us and ask questions, because I know how it works. You watch a webinar, you get interested, and then you 2 hours later you go, oh, I wish I would have asked. Please feel free to contact Carmen or myself. I think Carmen put our contact information in the chat. You can go there and give yourself, just copy those and get a hold of us. Go ahead, Carmen. I can see something's going through.
Yeah, if you would like an access to a demo to be able to try things out, we would love to help and support you in that too. So just email us and we can do that. we can make that happen, as Dr. Crick said.
So there you have it. So if you want to jump into a demo site, we can sure make that happen. So let us know. Okay, I want to thank our friends at HEADRUSH Learning. These are great people, and they have a great company, and they're just delightful to work with. They have bent over backwards to help us get things rolled out in Kansas. And so truly want to thank them for this webinar. We're going to do some more of these each week on Thursdays. It won't be a full-blown webinar. It'll just be a Zoom meeting where we can just get together and chat and learn together. And we hope this has been informative for you and interesting. Please don't hesitate to share. We did record this. If you would like the recording to share with colleagues, just let me know and we will get that to you. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you, Carmen. I know you're busy and time is so valuable. Mike and Shane, I know you guys are very busy because we're always asking you to adopt something, change something. Sync it with Google Calendar.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you're working with all the other schools across the country you work with. So guys, you're great, and I really appreciate your time today. So thank you very much. And
Likewise.
please stay in touch. All right. Cheers,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody. Thanks for your time.
Thanks.